Hey guys, welcome back to Whiteboard Physiology. Today I wanted to go over why red blood cells are one of my favorite cells in the body and why they have such a difficult time repairing themselves when injured. Okay guys, so I wanted to hop into kind of the central dogma of biology and just really quickly explain what DNA does, okay? So DNA, in a nutshell, which is found in your nucleus and in your mitochondria, which you get from your mom. Kind of a different story, but for the sake of illustration, let's just say it's in the nucleus and DNA replicates into itself, okay? This is called replication. This is what your cells are doing all the time, right? Somatic cells are replicating into identical versions of themselves, which is good, right? You want to have multiple cells if you're injured and you can repair yourself and all that kind of stuff. But what happens is DNA, through a process of transcription, gets turned into RNA, okay? RNA then binds to ribosomes and in a process called translation makes proteins, okay? RNA translation makes proteins. And we really need to emphasize this, right? DNA, genes, right? Your genes, which are found in DNA, get converted into RNA, and then RNA turns into proteins, okay? Proteins do everything, right? Enzymes are proteins. They do everything throughout your body. They're super cool. They're structural proteins. There's enzymes, which facilitates reactions. They repair things. They're extremely cool. So how does this relate to red blood cells? Well, I think this is a great example. Just remember this example right here, okay? And what I want to do, I'm going to quickly erase this. Red blood cells, when a mature red blood cell leaves your red bone marrow and travels into the blood, it ejects its nucleus. It does not have a nucleus. It's crazy. That's so radical. I had no idea for years. This is why red blood cells take on a characteristic biconcave disc. Right? If you ever see it on like a scanning electron microscope or a peripheral smear, you can actually see them. They're pretty cool looking. They take on a biconcave disc because they eject their nucleus, right? Kind of a central component of the cell. So it kind of takes on this disc appearance. What that does is it allows more surface area to bind to oxygen with the protein's hemoglobin. And it also kind of helps allow the red blood cells to pass single file through capillaries. Capillaries are the only the only tissues in your body that allow exchange of nutrients because there's only one endothelial cell. Basically, if this is a capillary, it basically fits perfectly in a capillary. There's little endothelial cells. There's only one cell thick, basically. And what they do is you can allow things to go in and out of the blood into the tissues and vice versa. CO2, oxygen being the best examples. Why red blood cells can't repair themselves is they do not have a nucleus, right? So they don't have DNA that can actively turn into proteins, which are enzymes that can repair themselves. That's one reason why your red blood cells have a lifespan, on average, of 90 days, right? And this totally makes sense. Right? They get broken down in the spleen, a couple other places by macrophages, and they recycle the components of the red blood cell because your body's pretty good about not wasting anything. But this is really cool and this is really crucial, right? And one example of this is that, hemoglobin A1C, right, with diabetic patients, you draw an A1C how often? That's right, every 3 months, which is 90 days. The reason is that is the lifespan of red blood cells. So you're checking your 3-month average of blood sugars because that's about the length of time that red blood cell is traveling through your body before it gets broken down. So it's a pretty good indicator of your average blood glucose. Another example is like iron deficiency anemia, super common in gals in particular, but you have lower iron, so you have a harder time basically making red blood cells. And one thing is you can give them an oral iron supplement, but you really don't check the repeat CBC I mean, you can, there's different intervals you can check it, but, it's good to check about every 3 months because it just takes a long time to correct certain anemias because the lifespan of red blood cells are about 90 days. Yeah, you can get a transfusion and stuff like that. That's a little different. But what I really wanted to take home is that red blood cells have a hard time repairing themselves because they do not have DNA, right? They do not have a nucleus. They eject their nucleus. So this entire pathway, right, you stop it upstream, you are not making proteins, which can repair them. So I love red blood cells, and I thought it was a really good example of a mature cell that does not have a nucleus, and the consequences down the line of not having a nucleus, and one reason why they live for about 90 days before they go to the spleen to die. You guys, I hope you like that, and have a great day.